What are some real causes of death that are so rare they seem almost unbelievable? There was a story about a man taken by a sinkhole that formed under his bedroom. It was so deep they never found him. Certainly a unique and tragic way to go. In 1989, Buenos Aires, Argentina, saw a tragic sequence of events when a dog fell from a building, killing a woman upon impact. Another woman, bewildered by the scene, was run over by a bus. An elderly man witnessing both tragedies then suffered a fatal heart attack. This all occurred within a matter of minutes. On August 17, 1986, 1,700 were suffocated by Lake Nyos in Cameroon. None of the people who died were in the lake, though. What happened was that 1,700 dead bodies were discovered with signs of suffocation, along with dead animals as well. At first, no one knew why. Turns out, CO2 was leaking into the lake and settling into the bottom of the lake, and when a rock slide happened, the air bubble underneath the lake popped and it was brought to the surface, and all the CO2 escaped all at once, depriving everyone nearby of oxygen, causing them to suffocate. Only one person in recorded history was ever killed by a meteor strike. It was in the Ottoman Empire in 1888. Another man, near him, was paralyzed, being crushed in a submersible on the way to see the Titanic. Fatal familial insomnia, FFI. https://wikipedia.org/wiki/fatal_insomnia. It's a genetic condition. You lose the ability to sleep. It eventually kills you. There is no cure. Dying from laughter. Alex Mitchell, a 50-year-old man, laughed nonstop for 25 minutes while watching a TV show called Kung Fu Cappers, leading to a fatal heart attack from the strain. His widow later sent a letter to the goodies, the stars of the show, expressing her gratitude for making his final moments so joyful. People have ended up in jail for murder because the actual reasons for the deaths were so unusual that courts didn't believe them. Two cases, Lindy Chamberlain, a dingo, actually did eat her baby, and Kathleen Folbig, all four of her children died from a rare genetic mutation. The ancient Greek playwright Aeschylus was apparently killed when a bird dropped a tortoise on his head, thinking it was a rock on which to break the shell of the tortoise. Dying from a broken heart is a real thing apparently. A handful of people in the US each year die from putting on their pants. I worked with a man whose elderly relative showed stroke symptoms and died the same evening in the hospital. Initially, it seemed like the family could sue, but the labs revealed a type of leukemia so rare, diagnosed only about 10 times annually in the US, that there's no chemo protocol for it because patients don't survive long enough for one to be developed. One time I got really drunk at a bonfire party and accidentally drank a bunch of kerosene. I threw up most of it before I passed out, but in the morning I was vomiting so forcefully that it felt like I was going to regurgitate my entire stomach through my throat. I found out many years later that that is actually possible and can kill you. Good news is I don't drink anymore and will be 6 years sober in August. In 1965, a passenger bus in Turkey was traveling at 3:15 a.m. on the highway. The bus collided with a truck carrying nitric acid, which was waiting on the roadside due to a shaft malfunction. As a result of the accident, the nitric acid in the truck's tanker spilled onto the ground and into a puddle by the roadside. The intense fumes created by the reaction of nitric acid with water caused panic among some of the passengers who were sleeping inside the bus. They thought the bus was on fire and attempted to evacuate in a state of distress. However, when they left the bus, their feet came into contact with the spilled nitric acid on the ground, causing them to suffer burns. In an attempt to alleviate their pain, they entered a mixture of water and nitric acid, resulting in 18 of them melting to death on the scene. Declining to be vaccinated against rabies post-exposure because you are not comfortable with vaccinations and then dying of rabies happened to literally one guy in the US in 2022. https://wiki/death/gloria/Ramirez https://wikipedia.org/death_of_Gloria_Ramirez. She lived down the street from me when I was a kid. Long story short, she had cervical cancer, was self-administering dimethyl sulfoxide, DMSO, on her body, which converted into dimethyl sulfate, DMSO4, a very carcinogenic agent, and an ester of sulfuric acid. She was given several IVs to sedate her, but weren't working. They then tried to defibrillate her. Between the exposure of her blood to the air, the defib, etc., it caused her body to release a toxic gas that hospitalized 5 of the 23 people working on her. Drinking too much water. Strange but true. Drinking too much water can kill. Scientific American. https://www.scientificamerican.com/article/strange-but-too-much-water-can-kill. I looked this up a few days ago, after reading about a death because of badminton. A little girl watching a badminton game was killed when a racket broke and sent a shard of metal into her head. /**** death by vending machine /****. Yep, more people are killed by vending machines than by sharks each year. Imagine meeting your end trying to shake a stuck candy bar loose. Talk about a snack attack. Norsemen in 10th century Scotland cut off the head of Viking counterpart and wore it as a trophy on his horse saddle. The Viking had a huge tusk of a tooth, and with RHE head bobbing about with the horses trotting, it punctured his leg, and he died of infection from the wound. I remember watching a video about this one. It took place in the US, but I forget where. This kid left home for work at a supermarket and was never seen again. At the supermarket, they had a makeshift spot on top of a walk-in fridge that they used as a rest area away from everyone. Or they were using it for storage, I can't remember. The kid must have slipped, and he fell between the fridge and the building wall. The running fridge was loud enough that no one could hear him if he cried for help. No one knew what happened to him until a few years later, I think, during a building demolish, and they found his desiccated body when they removed the walk-in fridge. The hot air from the fridge motors had dried him out quick enough to not smell, I guess. It's scary to think how long he may have been alive after he fell, and eventually dying from a severe wound from the fall or dehydration over a few days. Some guy once died from breathing in his own farts. He had eaten a lot of cabbage and beans. He was sleeping in a small room with no windows open. His blood concentration of methane in the post-mortem autopsy was really high. Guy died by inhaling his own lethal fart cloud. https://darwinawards.com/legends/legends1998-12 HTML. Eating too much licorice. Nighttime, September 26, 2020. The report said the man, an unidentified 54-year-old from Massachusetts, had consumed 1 to 2 large bags of black licorice a day for 3 weeks. That habit caused his potassium levels to drop precipitously, prompting a cardiac arrest, according to the study. He never regained consciousness after his collapse and died about 24 hours after he arrived at Massachusetts General Hospital. "We almost didn't believe it when we figured it out," said Dr. Jacqueline B. Henson, who treated the man while she was a resident at the hospital. "We were all shocked and surprised." Aspiring doctors are taught in medical school that black licorice contains glyceric acid. https://pubchem.ncbi.nlm.nih.gov/compound/glyceric-acid. A plant extract that is often used as a sweetener in candies and other foods and can lead to dangerously low potassium levels if it is consumed in high enough doses. But it is rare to see a case of someone dying as a result of ingesting too much of the candy, Dr. Henson said. The dudes who laid down on a warm spot on the ground and ended up dying of radiation poisoning because it was warm due to having stray sources buried there. The Cincinnati Privy disaster of 1904. School kids were outside playing during recess when a sudden storm hit. Most of the kids ran inside to the actual school, but about 30 girls ran into the outdoor outhouse on the far side of the playground to get out of the rain. The outhouse was about 10 feet wide, built over a 12-foot hole. The weight of the girls was too heavy for the old floor, which collapsed and many of them fell in. There was a panic struggle for all of them to get out. In total, 9 of the girls were killed by drowning/trampling in the water/waste that they'd fallen into. I have a strong urge to read the answers, but they are just unlocking new fears inside me. Broken heart syndrome, otherwise known as Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. I had an incident last February and thankfully I'm okay now, but I fear it happening again. It is brought on by emotional or physical stress and happens mostly to postmenopausal women. Sinkhole Israel. One guy died. https://scrolled.in/video/1028889/watch-sinkhole-open-up-under-pool-1-dead-1-injured. One of these past few 4th of Julys, a woman was overheating. She drank 4 bottles of water in about 30 minutes and died. If you find yourself overheating, do not down ice-cold bottles of water. Instead, get into some shade. Take off as much clothing as legally allowed. Drink slow and steady sips of cool/room temp water. Rapidly changing your body temperature will throw your body into shock, and that is how the woman died. Same thing for the cold. Rapidly warming yourself up will send you into shock and kill you. Must do so gradually. Digging a hole on a beach and the sand collapsing on you and suffocating. It's definitely happened, but not something you hear every day. Not getting enough potassium. Yes, it happens. Eat some bananas, people. I once read a report from the German Ministry of Health listing every single cause of death as determined by the appointed physician. I think it was for the year 2019, but I don't remember exactly. 2 people's cause of death was simply listed as coughing. As someone with pretty severe coughs, I did get quite a bit scared from reading that. Edit. As much as I appreciate everyone sharing their own coughing horror stories/hypotheses, and I'm saying this as someone who generally always welcomes all types of discussions, opinions, and experiences, please stop responding to me. If you want to share your thoughts, there's 4 or 5 people below this very comment who I'm sure would appreciate to hear from you. But right now, these comments are the exact opposite of what I would like to have on my mind. Anything that's not coughing yourself to death related, I'd love to have a chat about, just not this particular topic. Thank you. Smiley face. Getting struck by a meteor. Someone in my neighborhood fell into there with chipper face screaming in fear. Pretty hefty bot activity ITT. Blowing air into a pregnant woman's vagina can be fatal. I watched a medical examiner show talking about cause of death. An older man routinely got so upset at his wife and pointed an unloaded shotgun at her. Their adult son, who was upset at his mom, secretly placed a shell in the gun. Sometime later, the son jumped from the rooftop of their building, unbeknownst to his parents, who were in a full-on argument, in which the father grabbed the shotgun. This time, however, he pointed the gun at the wife, pulled the trigger. The shell the son put in the gun went off. The slug missed the wife and exited the window behind her, actually striking the son as his body fell from the rooftop. I believe the question was this homicide by shotgun or suicide by jumping or suicide by shotgun. It was ruled suicide by son because he loaded the gun in secret. That one Netflix documentary, The Staircase, where a man is put into jail for murdering his wife. They later found out it could have been an owl killing the wife. Not sure if it was actually proven, but if I remember correctly, the bird would have clawed at the back of her head, and she ran inside to hide, but she slipped on the stairs. Death from being crushed by a flying toilet seat. https://youtube.be/UGWPJ88EWT4 In 1919, 21 people were killed by molasses when a large spill occurred.